We talked a lot about him.
No, she's not going to talk about James Cone.
He was a 20th century theologian, and he popularized something called liberation theology, and specifically for him, black liberation theology. But liberation
I don't like the way she said black neither.
Thought, to which Talarico holds that asserts that the Bible, the gospel, the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus, the advancement of God's kingdom, the future hope that we have of a new earth and a new heaven is all actually about liberating the so-called oppressed.
So-called.
Fighting white supremacy on behalf of black people, fighting immigration enforcement on behalf of immigrants, fighting capitalism on behalf of the poor, etc. Cone wrote this, quote, "This is what Christ's resurrection means. The oppressed are freed for struggle, for battle, in the pursuit of humanity." So, like James Talarico, James Cone believes that every religion that speaks to the same truth, the truth of liberation, was a legitimate religion. So for him, the exclusivity of Christ and spiritual salvation from sin was really unimportant. And by the way,
oh my God. Okay, I'm done.
That's crazy.
The logical leaps are insane.
Get James Cone's name out your fucking mouth.
Yeah, she's leaping like LeBron was last night on some of the dunks he was doing. That's incredible.
Gosh.
Yeah. I don't even know where to begin on that.
Oh my gosh.
I think that...
I want to call her a mean word.
Shoot, me too. Maybe we'll wait till it's over. That's Patreon, crazy. We can do it on a Patreon episode. But subscribe, I think that Patreon. One of the things that makes James Talarico interesting right now is that he's using explicitly Christian language to defend progressive policies.
Yes, yeah.
Most of the time when people quote the Bible, when they talk about how the Bible relates to politics, they're on the conservative side of things.
Yeah.
And so, liberation theology has a lot of political implications.
Yep.
And so I really like that someone like a James Talarico is platforming that perspective to show that Christianity is not either apolitical, which a lot of evangelicals who are maybe not Christian nationalists, but they maybe will bow out of politics and say it's kind of less important and they kind of are more apolitical. But there's very clear political implications to what the quote that she just read from James Cone. And so I really do enjoy that Talarico is platforming that. But that's also why, from my perspective, there's so many evangelicals that are threatened by his rise.
It's funny. It's like kind of the narrative is like, well, he's a liberal, but he's a Christian. And it's like you realize like pretty much all Democratic elected representatives throughout all of history, even contemporarily, are Protestant Christians.
Just not evangelical.
Yeah, just not evangelical. And but what's different is, and this kind of highlights a couple of things, it demonstrates that shows like they're Democrats, but they're not progressive.
Right.
You know what I mean? On almost any issue. And they also don't know enough about their faith to take it seriously. So he's not just a liberal, progressive Democrat who is a Christian. He's leading with his faith. Whereas I feel like the Democrats, even the progressive ones, have kind of operated from a defensive position for so long.
Yeah.
Not really knowing how to defend abortion theologically, not knowing how to defend gay marriage theologically, and just kind of running away from it, leaning in towards just kind of a vague sense of pluralism.
That's right.
And openness and like, well, that's for me. But, and that's why so many Democrats had for such a long time trouble affirming same-sex marriage and stuff like that. Like even you go back to Hillary Clinton's campaign, Barack Obama at the beginning of his, they were not pro-gay marriage.
Right.
Barack Obama was like making waves because he was like, well, maybe we can have some kind of third option, like civil unions for gay
I remember that, yeah.
And it's, Talarico is interesting because he's leading with it in the same way that conservatives have led weaponizing Christianity. Yeah. The only difference is I think he actually has more legs to stand on.
Yeah, I think that's true. And it would be interesting if he gets into the Senate and there's a lot of individuals there in Congress who will make very direct connections between their Christianity and things like the support of Israel, or I'm trying to think of some other positions. Obviously, abortion and gay marriage. Right. There's a lot of Christian nationalism that's being put forward right now, and so to have someone like a Talarico who is very much against Christian nationalism, but is using the Bible to combat Christian nationalism, I think it's very important. Even though, like we mentioned at the beginning, I don't necessarily believe or subscribe to all of his political persuasions or perspectives. I don't think he's an anti-capitalist, or maybe he's just not one in Texas.
Yeah, I don't see that. Yeah, I'm not. He's actually not somebody that excites me all that much politically. Yeah. But it is still a good lesson for the left, for the actual left, not the neoliberal, slightly progressive Democrats, which is essentially all he is. He's kind of just slightly progressive Democrat. Like, that's what the left should be doing. Socialists should be leaning in, not if you're not a Christian, not in a disingenuous way, but like you should be entering into those conversations.
Yeah, it's not something that is not for you if you're on the left. Like these positions, a lot of the foundation for them come from the Bible. And that's one thing you'll hear a lot of historians say, well, the left has gotten their morality from the Bible. Of course, morality over the past 2,000 years has evolved in a lot of ways, and there's been plenty of thinkers that they discount. Yeah. But there are plenty of ideas that come from the New Testament that we've built on over time that I think we shouldn't shy away from just because Christian nationalists like to weaponize the Bible for their own ends. Just like you can hear, I mean, hundreds of years ago, slavery was both justified through Scripture, but it was also combated through a different reading of Scripture. And so I think we should be able to have those conversations today.
I agree. And, I think it's like a very dangerous thing for the power structures because to embrace, for example, the way Dr. King embraced socialism and led his socialism from a Christian perspective.
That is dangerous.
He actually gave the template for what somebody like Talarico is doing, but just with actually good positions on stuff. Yeah. Like that's what Christian socialists should be leaning more into, which somebody reached out to me the other day from the Institute for Christian Socialism or something like that.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, I mean, neither. I'm trying to look more into it and see what they're doing. But, that's honestly those are the bridges that should be being built.
Sure. Cool. Well, I think we'll leave it at that. Got a lot of James Talarico.
Yeah, this is special James Talarico
This is not an endorsement of his political opinions or thoughts. I mean, obviously, I hope he wins in Texas and flips that seat. But after that, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Hold his feet to the fire, push him further left is what I think. Get him in office, and maybe he'll do what the other Democrats do, but in the opposite direction, where they kind of govern a little bit more progressive, and they get into office and they go right.
Maybe he'll do the
center right. Maybe he'll go a little bit further left.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, y'all.